Hello friends, welcome to S. Kumar IAS. So we are studying political science series and we completed Karl Marx. Today we are going to study Gramsci. And if you have not watched the previous lectures, please do watch because otherwise you will not be able to grasp even the small amount of this lecture. All the lectures are in continuity, all the scholars, the previous scholars you should know, then only you can understand Gramsci and that will make better sense for you. Okay, so let us start Gramsci. So, Gramsci is called the greatest disciple of Karl Marx. He is the second greatest philosopher of Marxism and he was the founder of Communist Party of Italy. Actually, just to put the things into perspective, just a brief historical idea. Gramsci belonged to the South Italy, and South Italy was poorer than North Italy, and it troubled Gramsci. Why it troubled? That his teacher Marx says that capitalism has to die its own death. So he was quite concerned because his ideals words were not coming true. Although there was, major difference of economic status, still there was no communist revolution. Marx says economic structure is the basic structure, but still the revolution was not taking place, and it troubled Gramsci a lot. So Gramsci particularly belonged to Sardinia of southern Italy, and he was contemporary of Mussolini. And Mussolini called him the most dangerous man, and Mussolini actually jailed him. Why? Why he called him most dangerous man? Because Mussolini was supporter of capitalism, state-sponsored capitalism. Although he was, fascist, still he supported capitalism. And Gramsci was Marxist. So no need to explain why he was most dangerous person for him. So this was the context in which Gramsci is operating, and actually because he was jailed by Mussolini, and he actually died early also. His writings were smuggled from prison, and they are called prison notebooks. And it is also said that Gramsci and Gandhi were contemporary. They were contemporary. They had no direct access to each other, no direct access. But still, the Gramsci's theory, which we'll study further, Gandhi looks, perfect person to implement Gramsci's theory in practical. How? We'll see it later. And Bipin Chandra says that, you can quote it in your answers, that Indian national movement is the best example of Gramscian movement. How? We'll see it later. So, Gramsci's questions were there in his mind, that why there is no communist revolution in advanced capitalist economies, why Marxism didn't come in Russia as Marx wanted, because Lenin is called Peter who denied master. Peter who denied master. If you don't know about this, please do watch the previous lectures, you will come to know. And then he was particularly concerned that why there was no communist revolution in southern Italy. So these were the particular concerns of Gramsci. And he critically examined Marx's theory of history, and he tried to search the alternative theory. So Gramsci was basically influenced by Benedetto Croce in general and Benedetto Croce's theory of history in particular, because Benedetto Croce explains the importance of cultural factor in history, that how cultural factor shapes the history, and Marx completely rejects any other factor than economic factor. He says economy is the basic structure and that's it, finish, over. There is no other structure. But Gramsci, because he was so concerned about his teacher, he does critical examination and he tried to build his own theory, sort of modifying Karl Marx theory. So he concluded that Marx overestimated the economic factors in shaping history, and Marx underestimated the role of culture in shaping history. So here comes the role of Benedetto Cross. And Karl Marx says that only basic structure changes, and basic structure is economic structure. Superstructure will change automatically, so only one revolution. Why only one revolution? Because this is the superstructure, this is the basic structure. He says that actually the basic structure, he focuses that economy is the only basic structure, and all other structures just depend upon economy. And if this changes, then the complete structure changes. But Gramsci says that Russian Revolution didn't move as Marx prediction, as Karl Marx predicted. Why Russian Revolution didn't move? Because only mode of production changed in Russia, and superstructure didn't change. Marx predicted that if economic structure changes, everything changes, but it didn't happen in Russia in particular. So, because there was only material revolution, this happened because only there was material revolution in Russia. There was no cultural or intellectual revolution. Hence, intellectual revolution must precede the material revolution. What is the material revolution? Material revolution means the transfer of power. To be particular, it is called just transfer of power. Because Marx says that matter is real and not idea. So matter is the moving force of history. So that's why the materialist theory of power, in a sense, he says that material structure changes. So material structure basic means power. भाई ये सारा गेम हो रहा है किसके लिए हो रहा है? ये इन 5 वर्ड्स के लिए हो रहा है. ये जितनी भी थ्योरीज आपको दिख रही है ना, दे आर जस्ट फॉर दिस 5 वर्ड्स. POWER, power. That's it. Everybody wants power. Everybody wants to dethrone its enemies, and for dethroning its his enemy, they just build a very nice, very fancy theory. These theories are nothing but just medium to acquire power. That's it. If you understand in these understand these theories in this background, it will be pretty clear to you. Otherwise you will just cram and cram and cram. You will never understand anything if you do not understand background and the holistic picture. And what is the holistic picture? The holistic picture is the person who is giving theory, he just is acting in some way or other for some center of power. Whether he was Plato, whether he was Aristotle, whether he was Locke, Mill, or whether Marx, anything you take. So their concept of power may different. It may differ. Concept of power may differ. Somebody may want direct power, somebody may want indirect power, whatever. But the point is, this is the central theme of all the theories. You should never forget this. That's why understanding the the ongoing time, the contemporary times of any scholar is of very crucial importance. That's why I explained you first what is the context in which Gramsci is working. Southern Italy context, Mussolini context. So then we can understand why he's writing these things. Otherwise there is no point. You will never remember. If you without any logic, if you want to remember everything, it will be very, very difficult. So Gramsci's Marxism, it is called open Marxism or cultural Marxism. Open Marxism because he relaxes many criteria of Karl Marx, and he sort of gives window to the other ideas. He brings cultural factors, so it is open Marxism. And cultural Marxism, no need to explain, already explained. Still, if you have doubt anywhere in the lecture, please do ask in the comment box. I will personally answer you. So, Gramsci says that superstructure itself cannot be taken for granted. Superstructure is structure in itself. That's why he is also called theoretician of superstructure. Gramsci is also called theoretician of superstructure. Why? Because he says superstructure is structure in itself. This is basic structure. Now, if this is superstructure, it is structure in itself. Marx says that if this economic structure, this is the basic structure, and if it changes, everything changes. Marx says, no, sir, you are wrong. Economic structure changes, that is all right. Economic structure is basic structure, but superstructure is also base and superstructure. He gives model of base and superstructure. So economy may be base, that's all right, granted, accepted. But at the same time, the superstructure is also the structure. It will not change automatically with the economic structure. It is structure in itself. And then he says that because it is structure in itself, and because there are two structures now, so there should be, its logical conclusion that there should be two-stage revolution. There should be two-stage revolution. Why? Because there are two stages. So every stage should change. Otherwise, it will not be a sustainable revolution as per Gramsci. And he says that the first revolution at stage 1, he says, at the level of superstructure. First you change superstructure. And he called it war of position. It is a protracted and long-term strategy to establish counter-hegemony. Now, to understand hegemony is quite important. In Gramsci, hegemony is very, very crucial concept. What is this hegemony? He says that hegemony is to manufacture consent in favor of capitalism or ruling class, in short. So hegemony is sort of soft power. It is power of attraction. It is invisible. So there is less resistance for it. It impacts mind and consciousness. Marx rejected consciousness, but Gramsci again brings it. Marx believed in matter. Just pure matter. Matter, and matter. Marx believed in that. No consciousness. He does not believe in kind of subtle things. But Gramsci brings subtle concepts of consciousness, because consciousness is a subtle concept. You cannot see the consciousness. Consciousness is not explained materially. There is no matter in consciousness. So Gramsci brings this concept that there is soft power, subtle power. And because it cannot be seen, it is less resistible. People cannot resist it. Why? Because they cannot see it. How they will resist? Like temptations. If we cannot see the temptation, you cannot resist it. So this subtle hegemony, it impacts mind and consciousness, and it determines limit of common sense. He says that it becomes almost impossible to see beyond common sense, and it brings opacity, and it becomes difficult to understand the real nature of capitalism and the state. Why? Because, for example, the moderates in modern Indian history. So the moderates says that the British rule is blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise. Why? Because they say that Britishers bring lot of good things. For example, parliamentary democracy. For example, rule of law. For example, railways, technology, telegraph, so many things. So the moderates says that Britishers are blessing in disguise. They are supporting their own exploitation. So in hegemony, person starts enjoying his own exploitation. He is getting exploited, but he thinks that I am enjoying. For example, a camel is there. Okay, suppose this is camel. So generally what happens, my drawing is not very good. Just suppose this is camel. So a camel in desert, he eats thorns. and when he eats thorns, blood oozes out from his mouth. Blood oozes out. And he starts enjoying his own blood. Why? He thinks that this taste is due to this taste is due to the thorns. But actually this is not the taste of thorns. It is the taste of his own blood. So the camel is enjoying his own blood and he is getting happy. He is saying that, oh my god, thorns are so nice, thorns are so tasty, because they are not tasty. So in short, he is enjoying his own exploitation. He is enjoying his own exploitation. Okay, he is just enjoying his own exploitation. So that is the concept. And now let's see. Gramsci says that Gramsci suggested this two-stage revolution. The first we already saw at the level of superstructure. So the hegemony is built by the capitalist, as the Britishers. I gave you example of Britishers. So he says that to break this hegemony, you have to bring counter hegemony. Establish counter hegemony. Gramsci says that you have to establish counter hegemony. Okay, I'll just write it. He says that in war of position, you have to bring counter hegemony. Counter hegemony. Okay, what is counter hegemony? Counter hegemony can be seen in Indian context as Brahminism and Dalitism, patriarchy versus feminism, and so on. Gandhi's movement is, the ideal example of that. The non-cooperation and civil disobedience movement of Gandhi were war of position. And the second stage of revolution is at the level of basic structure. This is called war of maneuver. This is sudden, this is violent, and this is capture of power. For example, Quit India movement of Gandhi. So now you should know that why Gandhian movement is called the best example of Gramsci's strategy. War of position, war of position, non-cooperation and civil disobedience, war of maneuver, Quit India movement. So two-stage revolution. First revolution at the level of superstructure, the second revolution at the level of basic structure. So these are the two-stage revolution concept of Gramsci, and I already explained you the concept of hegemony. What is hegemony? In hegemony, the exploited gets enjoying its own exploitation. Now let's see Gramsci's model. So Gramsci's model, he says that economic structure is the basic structure, and in superstructure comes state and civil society, church and media, education department, and so on. So political society and civil society. The civil society by Gramsci is called the lieutenant of capitalist, and their role is to manufacture consent in favor of capitalism. Okay, that's what the work of civil society is basically. And I already explained you why he is called theoretician of superstructure, and he also saved Marxism from criticism of economic determinism. Why? Because he brings cultural factor. He brings cultural factor in Marxism, in the theory of Marxism. He says that state is opaque, and if due to this hegemony, the state becomes opaque, and civil society is present, and there is need of protracted war, and that's why it lasts long. Why? Because the state is opaque. People are enjoying their own exploitation. They just don't realize that their exploitation is so naked. That's why it requires protracted war. But if the state is transparent, there is naked exploitation like Russian under Tsar, and their revolution is quite easy, but not in the another case. So in Indian context, I already explained you that Britishers ruled not just by coercion but did good things also, and that's why the moderate says that they are blessing in disguise. So it was difficult to convince the moderates about exploitation, and further I already explained you, so you just see in that light. Still you do not understand, please do ask in the comment box, I will answer. So now comes the Gramsci's concept of intellectuals. Gramsci says that if you have to change the superstructure, then you have to change the consciousness of the people. And how you will change the consciousness? Through intellectuals. And Marx rejected intellectuals. He says that revolution will be spontaneous. But spontaneous revolution was not happening. That's why Lenin tweaked with his theory, and now Gramsci is again tweaking. Gramsci says that all humans are intellectuals, but all do not play a role of intellectual, because no work purely intellectual or manual. Even workers can be intellectuals. Because no production is without intellectuals, so workers can lead themselves, provided they are able to develop consciousness. He brings again and again concept of consciousness. Consciousness is important, and he says that due to contradictory consciousness there is dilemma, but by awareness right consciousness can be developed. And for awareness comes the concept of intellectuals. Why intellectuals are needed? For awareness. For awareness. So for changing the consciousness there is need of intellectuals. Why? Because they will bring awareness, and if they bring awareness, then the contradictory consciousness of the workers will no longer remain, and they will have very clear idea of their exploitation. They will have clear idea. These all are keywords you can just remember, that for changing superstructure you need to bring revolution in the superstructure. You have to change it. For that you have to bring counter hegemony, and for that you need intellectuals. Why? Because intellectuals, they bring awareness, and awareness, through awareness workers, they just get rid of their contradictory consciousness, and they are ready now. They are ripe for revolution, the final revolution, the stage 2, and which is the war of maneuver. So that's what the concept of the need of intellectual in Gramsci. Now he divides intellectuals into two categories. The first one is traditional, and the second one is organic. So the traditional intellectuals are like church father and other classes which have organic linkages with either dominant class. And Gramsci says that ruling class should understand art of building coalition. Coalition is quite a peculiar feature of Gramsci. In fact, we will see later on also, he explains history in terms of coalition of classes. So he says that economic structure is not the only thing, and there is not only two classes. For Marx there are only two classes, one have and second have not. One is exploited and exploiters. But no, Gramsci says that for art of ruling you should know how to build coalitions and leadership rather than rulership. So leadership is required for coalition, and through coalition you can build hegemony or counter hegemony. So Gramsci takes quite practical view, and he is quite practical than Marx himself. Then he says that traditional like intellectuals, they sometimes act as organic intellectuals, and organic intellectuals are like organically linked to the dominant class. For example, Britishers became dominant class in India, and who were the organic intellectuals for Britishers? The intellectuals were zamindars, engineers, doctors, civil servants. They all were organic intellectuals. So organic intellectuals are peculiar to a particular time. They are peculiar to the ruling class. So with every ruling class there are different organic intellectuals, but traditional intellectuals remain almost same, like church fathers and everybody. So this is the concept of two categories of intellectuals. Then comes the hegemony. I already explained you. it's about leadership. Uh, it brings the aspect of consciousness, cultural aspects, and hegemony is continuous, not once for all, like hegemony, counter hegemony, then hegemony, hegemony, then counter hegemony, then again hegemony of some class, because counter hegemony itself becomes an hegemony with time, and then again counter hegemony. So it's a kind of circular path, hegemony and counter hegemony. First Gandhi and Gandhian movement bring counter hegemony for Britishers. Then Gandhian movement itself, it was in Indian context after independence, it was sort of Congress was opposed, or Congress was challenged by the subaltern classes. So now it become hegemony, and then it become counter hegemony. So it just goes on. Hegemony and counter hegemony has circular relationship, and counter hegemony is called the ideology of subaltern classes, and the ideology of dominant class is called the hegemony. For example, I already told you Brahminism, Dalitism, patriarchy, feminism, British discourse of civilizing mission versus Gandhian discourse. Britisher says that we are civilizing the colonies, but Gandhi sort of said the evil empire. He called the British Empire as evil empire. Gandhi was in fact the first person so emphatically proving this thing. Others also like Dadabhai Nehruji and everybody, they did critique of British economic policies and all, but they were not so naked. Gandhi just brought kind of naked criticism of British Empire. So that is called counter hegemony, and these all are just to grab the power. No need to explain it again and again. And then when hegemony is there, the exercise of power, exploited finds happiness in exploitation. I already explained you that. And Gandhi formed the coalition of subaltern classes against the Britishers, who built coalition of zamindars, kings, and civil servants. So Britishers make coalition of zamindars, kings, civil servants, but Gandhi made coalition of subaltern classes like Harijans and like upper caste also, and Muslims also. So Gandhi tried to make the coalition of these classes, and he tried to make the counter hegemony. Then you can give the example of Kanshiram, of giving concept of Bahujan Samaj Party, of coalition of subaltern classes. And then in hegemony, the idea becomes common sense, and when the idea becomes common sense, it is accepted by the masses. There is no resistance at all. In Italy, there is no communist revolution because, Communist Party of Italy failed to develop national popular. National popular is sort of another term for counter hegemony. National popular is a kind of ideology. And what is the difference between philosophy and ideology? The philosophy is abstract, and ideology is set of ideas, which is simpler version of philosophy and easy to understand for the masses. For example, if you go and explain a common man Plato's theory or theory of Gramsci and all, they may not understand the technical jugglery, jargons, and complexities. But ideology is a simple thing which any layman can understand. So he says that the role of intellectuals is to bring ideology. Counter ideology, you can say in essay. And national popular means folklore. Like Gandhi's movement was national popular, folklore. Everybody without any resistance accepted it. And then integral concept of integral state, Gramsci says that state in Gramsci include civil society, and which also protect capitalism. The civil society protects capitalism. Concept of historical class. So in historically, Gramsci says that coalition of classes is there, not a single class, but coalition of classes to rule. And historical block, he says that history changes not just when basic structure changes. The entire block has to change for change of history. Entire block, not the basic structure, but both the basic structure and superstructure. Even the superstructure has to change. So that was all about Gramsci. I hope that you liked our lecture and you understand Gramsci quite well as per the requirement of civil services mains examination. Still, if you have some do ask in the comment box. I will personally answer you. After Gramsci, we'll study Hannah Arendt, and after that, we'll try to build upon all these concepts and try to solve some questions once I complete part A of the paper 1. So I hope that you are enjoying the lectures, and thank you so much for coming to S Kumar classroom. Till the next lecture, stay connected and work hard. Thank you so much.